The fertility regulator is considering tripling the level of compensation for women who donate eggs to childless couples to 750 quid to encourage more donors to come forward. Critics warn that higher payments could persuade women to donate for the wrong reasons. Now, when we were talking about downsizing, I had the wonderful Jane in Lewisham phoning up saying that everybody should be given contraception because we are overpopulated. This is a tricky, tricky subject. How much should egg and sperm donors be paid? 0207 224 2000, text me 81333 starting with London, or email me vanessa@bbc.co.uk. You can tweet me at Vanessa on Air. You can Facebook me, facebook.com/The Vanessa Show. You sit on the tube now and there's adverts for where to go and sell your sperm, and I've never seen that. I mean, now it's in common parlance. Egg donor compensation expected to triple. Good, bad? What do you make of it? 0207 224 2000. I'm joined by Alison Bagshawe from Altrui, an organisation that helps couples to find altruistic donors. A jolly good morning to you, Alison.
Good morning. Hello. It's Altrui, in fact.
Altrui, half of
Yes.
Altruistic, of course.
Exactly.
So
yes.
now let us start exactly with that. An altruistic donor is different from someone who sells it. What is it?
Yeah, an altruistic donor is a donor who comes forward who actually wants to give a couple the chance of having a family, and they do it for altruistic reasons, and it's usually because they've seen a member of the family struggling with infertility, or they've got children themselves and just want to give something back. Now, on the whole, most egg donation in this country is actually about egg sharing. And egg sharing is where a couple needs IVF treatment for their own reasons, and a recipient couple benefit by actually getting a proportion of their eggs, and that couple get paid by the recipient couple, if that makes sense, of going through.
So if I wanted a baby and I couldn't have one, and you altruistically wanted to give me one of your eggs, I would pay you.
Well, you wouldn't actually pay me, no. It is different. What the HFEA are actually doing at the moment...
Let me tell, that's the Human Fertilisation and Embryology Authority.
Sorry. Yes,
all right, Diane, go on.
At the moment. What they're doing is actually looking at compensating people for the inconvenience and for recognition of that commitment that they're going to have to go through in being a donor. Now, they're not decided yet on the level of compensation.
But at the moment, a donor... Now, are we talking just women here? Egg donation?
No, we're talking about egg and sperm donation.
Okay.
So it's obviously, I'm principally involved with the egg donation side because we try and find altruistic donors.
Now, currently a donor receives up to 250 quid, and as you say, it's not been decided yet. But they're suggesting it's going to be £750, which some experts hope will encourage more women to donate. Now, the issue here is, I mean, there are lots of people who are criticising this. The British Fertility Society supports an increase in compensation payment, but said, and I quote, it was important to ensure that women continue to volunteer for altruistic reasons. What do you make of that?
Well, I think that's absolutely true, but I also think it needs to be recognised that at the moment, £250 doesn't actually cover a donor going in maybe 5-6 times in a cycle to actually donate.
But if it's altruistic, Ali, then no money should pass hands at all, should it?
Yeah, but no, there is an argument for actually saying, well, shouldn't people get paid for their travel into London, for instance? I mean, we have donors coming from the West Country who give up 4 or 5 days, and at the moment they are entitled to loss of earnings, and it's really to...
But that's what I'm asking. I mean, if it's altruistic, an altruistic act does not expect any recompense. It's done with the grace of God.
And a lot of truly altruistic donors are not interested in this money. We go recruiting altruistic donors, and it's absolutely not discussed.
Okay.
But it is actually, it is a recognition by the HSEA that people are having to go through something like this.
Well, Dr. David King, Director of Human Genetics Alert, said it would create a financial incentive for women.
Yeah.
Ethically, it's wrong to make part of the human body a commodity. The body should not be part of commerce. Now, that's a very clear
Strong statement, yes.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
Well, I absolutely agree. I mean, I would prefer that people would donate altruistically, but I also am aware enough that people actually do need to actually be reimbursed for things like travel, for the inconvenience of this, without actually being out of pocket. But I don't think it should be incentivized, no.
Well, because it can be, for a moment, for people who have no idea what the donors go through, it's incredibly invasive, isn't it?
Well, I think it's more invasive in terms of the social impact that it has just by having to keep going into a unit for scans and things. Now, going through an altruistic donation program as opposed to egg sharing, it is actually much easier on the donor because they go through a shortened cycle. They're not stimulated to such a high degree. And it actually, we get them through in about 10 days. So it's really very quick. The inconvenience is the main thing, and that's where it's quite intrusive. It actually does intrude on their social and working lives.
Josephine Quinterval of Comment on Reproduction Ethics said egg harvesting is an invasive and dangerous process, and women should not be induced with ever larger sums of money to incur such risks.
I don't disagree with the second statement of that. The first statement, I think it depends on actually how it is done and the protocols that are put in place for actually going through the donation cycle. I think a short protocol isn't that a difficult thing to do for somebody who's quite healthy.
Okay, Alison Bagshawe, I've got two more questions.
Sure.
Given that we are so overpopulated, and the whole programme today we've been talking about, not enough housing for everybody and people being evicted and all this stuff. I mean, is there still a place for sperm donation, egg donation, IVF in the 21st century when the globe is heaving?
Yeah, it's a very valid comment. I mean, personally, I think that if you actually have ever worked on the front line and seen the terrible grief and distress and the profound loss that these couples experience, I think it does actually beg the question, do they have a right to have the opportunity of having a child? I mean, these people have been through hell and back. It's not for social reasons that they go down the egg donation route. It's because of medical reasons. I wouldn't like to be so judgmentalist to say, they shouldn't be having one or two children.
Altruism, the altruistic motive should remain at the core of donation.
Absolutely.
And payment should never facilitate coercion. So, I mean, given that you are from Altrui, you would say that altruism must be the core?
I feel absolutely that, and I really am concerned. I don't want the public's perception of these donors to alter because the payment levels will possibly be increased. And I think these women are absolutely staggeringly kind. They're incredibly nice and genuinely altruistic, the egg donors, and I wouldn't like the public perception to change, about them.
You have been so kind to join us. Thank you so much, Alison Bagshawe. Truly altruistic. It is a really tough discussion, this one. I've done it many, many times on many different radio stations, and it will raise your blood pressure. Do you think that donors should be paid more than 250 quid and their travel expenses up to £750 for donating eggs and sperm? How much do you think they should be paid? Or should it be an act of charity? Or should it not be an act at all? 02072242000. Text me 81333 starting with London, or email me vanessa@bbc.co.uk. You've been getting in touch with me on Facebook, which is facebook.com/The Vanessa Show. Marcus says you've always got that worry that some young lad or lass will be banging your door 18 years later. Is it worth any amount of money? If it has happened to you, that you have had, I interviewed a young girl on this programme who it was called Donor Unknown. It was an extraordinary American documentary. She came in as my guest, one of the most inspirational kids I've ever met, actually. But she wanted to know her dad, and she had a gay mum, and the two mums had got this sperm donation, and she set about tracking down her father, and there were several siblings that she had never met, that lived all over America, and they all had the same eyebrows, and they all had the same interest in music, and they found their dad, a Californian hippie, who I fell in love with. I nearly asked for his sperm donation, but I didn't. But they tracked him down, and he didn't want to be a daddy. He was a beautiful young athlete when he donated his sperm, but nevertheless these children felt a need to know their papa, and when they did, they held arms, and they had to accept that they were never going to get the kind of dad they wanted. She was not damaged. She just wanted to know her history. And it's like that really terrible gag. You know, I was born under the sign of, Pyrex. I was a test tube baby. Really terrible old gag. But I want to know, what do you make of sperm donation? Should there be money involved? 0207 224 2000. Rosella, I had my twins via IVF, my own eggs and hubby's sperm. But if either of us wasn't able to provide those, we would have lost out on a wonderful experience so far. Donors should be paid as much as someone is willing to pay. I would happily donate. Rosella, thank you for that. I hope you and your beautiful babies are well.